We need a motion. We have a quorum. We need a motion to adopt the agenda with a change.
Madam Chair, I move that.
We got a change.
I move that we adopt the agenda with two changes. One, that we move the, where is she?
Item G, tab G.
Tab G, the whole, not the whole tab, or the whole tab?
Yeah, it's only one item.
Okay, the whole tab G, and also the item under tab E, C, the shared governance timeline, up earlier in the agenda. One immediately after the president's comments, and the shared governance one after the communication reports.
Okay, is there a second?
I second that.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, President's report.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, just wanted to say that we have completed a successful semester. I know that faculty are glad to be finished. They had to have their grades in yesterday. But I do want to just point out a couple things from my written report. That is, we did have a nursing pinning last Friday, and we had 29 graduates from the nursing program.
Hey.
Great.
Yeah, it was great. One of our students, Angela Udamezu, I think I'm saying that right, has just received a $1,000 scholarship award from the 2014 Coca-Cola Leader of Promise, and she's going to be going into the nursing program. She's been doing her prerequisites. Had a couple of the several groups have events this month. The fashion design program had a winter fashion show that I understand was sold out, and I think they had a little bit of fog that set off an alarm or two, but it was a great event, I heard. A little foggy. The Winter Choral Concert was a well-received event and featured not only the chorus and chamber singers, but this year the guitar ensemble for the first time. And then the Clay Club had their 6th annual clay sale. It was a big success, and 100% of their auction items went to support the campus cupboard. So that was great. And related to the campus cupboard, just want to point out that for the fall semester, we distributed over 7,300 pounds of food to 73 different clients who had 122 dependents.
Wow.
And so
Great.
it's great. It's bad we need to do that. Yeah. It's great we're able to offer that. And I just want to make 3 personnel announcements. As of last Friday, Margaret Peters is no longer interim vice president. She's now vice president for academic affairs. Rebecca Estrada, effective January 5th, will be our executive director of the Higher Education Center and our dual credit programs. And Daniel Gutierrez, and I don't know if I announced this before, has accepted the position as executive director of human resources, and he will be starting on January 20th.
Great.
So let me, are we going to do an Achieving the Dream report now, or did we do enough at the work session?
I think we did enough at the work session. Everybody feel like you got a full report on achieving the
Well,
dream?
what do the two of you think? Did you have some burning issue that you want to tell us about? Yes.
You got just 3 or 4 slides. Come on up and do it. This is our showcase for tonight.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
and all 5 board members passed, graduated.
Some took longer than others.
Yes, with a little trouble.
Are these new slides we haven't seen? Yes. Oh, okay.
So we just wanted you all to know who's on our core and data teams. And we've been meeting together. I know a lot of schools they'll meet separately and then sometimes meet together. We've been meeting together, which has been, I think, really a great way to do it. We have a lot to learn from each other, and everybody has a different perspective, and so we have been meeting as a big group. This gives you sort of a timeline of, a list of what we've done. This sort of kicked off in June when a group of us went to North Carolina to the ATD kickoff. And we then came back and put our core and data teams together. We've played the finish line game. We have compiled an inventory of services that both academic affairs and student success areas provide. And we've been meeting regularly to identify target groups. We've been trying to look at data closely, and we have selected Hispanic males and Pell eligible males as our target groups. And we've been looking at more data to try to narrow down to specific classes that we want to identify to focus on. And you'll see that those are English 109 and English 111, Math 102 and Math 109, because those are really the...
Remedial?
Pardon?
Are those the
Yes.
developmental?
Not all of them. English 111 is a college level course, but these are courses that they're kind of the gateway to our getting students toward the college level courses. They're where we see students struggling, and so that's why we decided to focus.
So when you say you're going to focus on Hispanic males and Pell eligible males, does that mean that you don't help other groups, or, oh, okay.
Okay. Well, I think we help all the groups. What we really trying to do, the purpose of Achieving the Dream and why we became a member of that group is to really close the achievement gaps. Mm-hmm. So, we started with a broad retention rate, fall-to-fall retention rate, and see how many of our students really start at our institution and then stay the following fall. Mm-hmm. And that's usually, the first year is usually when we have the biggest challenge of retaining our students. That's when we lose most of our students. And so when we started breaking that raw number down, we started seeing there's discrepancies between those students who are more successful and those who are not. So we kept drilling down and drilling down and drilling down, trying to see which population really is there about a large gap compared to the rest of the population. And what we found out is that, in general, male students are not succeeding as highly as, female students, but especially Hispanic male students and Pell eligible students are having the biggest challenge of being as successful as the rest of the group. And so as this group, as a core team and the data team meet regular basis, we're trying to really identify where are some of the challenges that we could focus as an institution, and what do we need to do to help them. And so the first step was really to meet on a regular basis and really identify these, drill down to the point where we could identify this group. The second thing we did was we tried to look at which courses do they take, and where are really, which of these courses are truly the gateway keeper courses, where people we're keeping them from actually succeeding in the rest of their college education. And after looking at the data, we identified those 4 courses as first place for our institution to focus to help those students to be successful. And if you notice, those courses are also the courses that's taken by many of our first-time freshmen. So the activity we do there to try to improve those areas hopefully will help everybody, but we want to really especially help those groups where the gap is wide compared to the rest of the population.
So you will have specific strategies that, like mentors or I don't know, what are your strategies?
What we want to do is look at some of the strategies that we already have, some of the things that we've already been doing, and look at the success in those areas, and look at ways that we can fine-tune and make changes and revise, and then come up with even more strategies for how to do that. But things like, advising, intrusive advising, accelerated course pairings, these sorts of things, strengthening, tutoring, all of these wraparound services that can help students, putting them in contact with a faculty member that can kind of, follow through with them as they go in an advisory capacity, but as a person to check in. There are lots of different ways that we can approach this. And so this is really the next step we've inventoried the services. We want to look at that inventory list and look at where there's overlap and talk about what we already do, and then what may be missing, or how we can better do the things that we've been doing, and then what kind of new things.
Yes.
Madam, let me add to that. One of the things that we learned when we went to the kickoff, which kind of hit home for all of us, is this notion of equity versus equality. When we treat everybody the same, even if we give everybody the same options, it doesn't help those students who, just like in the game today, come from different places in life and have different things that are impacting their ability to get through programs. So we've identified 2 groups that we're going to put together strategies to address those groups. They may work for other groups too, but they're going to be, these are individuals and groups of individuals that, based upon their status in life for whatever reason, they need additional assistance to be successful. And so we're going to do the wraparound services in that area. Many of the services will, work across the board. But when you treat everybody the same, you don't get the same results.
Sure.
So that's what we're focusing
So
on.
in a class, in one of those classes, you just don't wait for them to fail the class. Do you, like, after the first test intervene, or after the midterm intervene, or? So it really means that the teachers have to report
Absolutely.
or tell you all that this
Absolutely.
student's having trouble.
And right now, we have what's called the early referral system or early alert system, and it's a way of identifying problems early on in the semester. But we need to look at other ways to do that and other ways to reach these students early on and check in with them periodically through the semester to, give them opportunities that students don't always come forward and say, I'm having trouble. So we seek them out, and we need to find ways that we can do that.
Chris?
Having worked with the early alert system up at Northern, I think you need more. There needs to be more involvement that sometimes doesn't even include the teacher. It might be a peer counselor or a peer advocate or somebody. Another question I have is, maybe I'm not in touch anymore, but Pell eligible males would seem to me to be a high percentage of Hispanic males. Is that true? And what are the percentages of non-Hispanic native? Aren't they small?
So, Madam Chair, as member of the board, Mr. President, board member Aveda, to answer your questions, there is a heavy overlap between Hispanic males and Pell eligible males. And just for the benefit of those who are watching through the internet, Pell eligibility is usually is a financial aid program that's awarded to low-income students. And so yes, there is a natural alignment between Pell eligible males and Hispanic males. And we did look at the American Indian population, but there wasn't a big enough group to really see if there was a truly, a small, when it was only about 10 to 15 people enrolled every semester as a first-time full-time degree-seeking population, even one or two students becomes a big, huge fluctuation in terms of numbers. So we're looking at that closely, but at this time we really wanted to focus on those two populations, thinking that that would probably cover most of the challenging area in terms of closing the equity gap.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to make a comment. First of all, I think it's a great program, and as President Grisham indicated, it's open to all. That's correct. However, there is a group that have greater special needs, and that's where we ought to make our focus and ensure that we're going to have peer groups to help them move along. I think this is very important for them to succeed. And after all, what we want is retention and graduation, and we need to focus on those special groups that need attention.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, is there another page?
There is, but I think we covered everything already. This is just an example of that gap to sort of show you. And I think, if they were too small to be included in the population because of the FERPA concerns, they excluded them. And that's the reason why you may not see some of the other groups. Only if they were large enough did I include them. For example, there were only like one Asian, one or two, or 5 or 10, or small numbers of Asians, for example. So if they were too small, then we excluded them from this particular list. But this is just an example of the type of data that the committee member met. Whenever they met on a regular basis, we reviewed and identified where to drill down and what to do next. But that's basically our hopes. Our next steps is that, of course, in the spring, during the convocation, we're expecting to have our leadership coach and our data coach from Achieving the Dream come and help us try to explain what we're trying to do through the Achieving the Dream to the rest of the campus and continue to further the mission of the college.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Chair, next we'll do the Employee of the Month The Pass It Forward Award. Tonight, Stevie Schmaltz has nominated Emmanuel Manny Arnold. So come on up. They're both here.
Madam Chair, members of the board, it's been a pleasure being the recipient of this award, and it's even more of a pleasure to pass it on to Manuel, who I believe is a key element in realizing Plant's vision for what needs to be done here and what is being done here. And I'm sure that Henry would agree with me that Manuel's doing a great job. He's keeping the crews moving and doing things that they need to be doing and keeping everybody on the right track. And so I see it everywhere I go on campus, and I appreciate what you do, Manuel.
Thank you, Stevie. Madam Chair, members, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Wow, I haven't felt this good about something since everyone hired me to take this job, and that was exactly a year ago to this day, almost one day short, almost a year. And I looked at the list of people that's included on that Pass It Forward, and every last one of these people have done great and good things for the campus. So it's a high standard, and the bar is really high. So my goal is to continue maintaining that standard and that high bar of excellence. Tomorrow, actually, I get a chance to pass it forward to someone else, so stay tuned for that one. I won't tell you who it is yet, but this has been a great honor for me. I didn't think I only been here just almost a year, and I didn't think I had the right stuff yet to be that. But so thank you, Stevie, and thank everyone.
Thank you.
I want to add that Manny and his team have been working on the recycling efforts too, and so we are now recycling baling cardboard. Some of our neighbors even provided to us, and we're selling it, and it goes to the Foundation for Scholarship Funds. So we're doing recycling and bringing dollars in to support students. So Manny, thank you for that.
Yes, sir. It's going to a student scholarship.
Oh, good.
Thank you all.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And the Wildgram tonight, Angela Ortiz nominated Marilee Gustafson. Marilee, I see Marilee's here. Are you going to read the nomination, Donna?
Angela was not able to be here, but she just said, I nominated Marilee because she's always helpful and cheerful. Marilee always goes above and beyond to help not only the staff, but especially the students. Thank you, Marilee, for all you do.
Thank you.
Very nice. I'm very honored to be here, to be acknowledged. I love what I do. I love helping the students. I love helping the faculty. In fact, next month will be my 7-year anniversary for being here, and I just want to keep doing what I do. So thank you. Thank you, Angela.
And thank you. And the best thing about Marilee is she always does it with a smile on her face. So that's great. We appreciate it. Thank you. Two other things. One is the enrollment report. I just passed out to you the statistics for today. For the fall, it's looked like we've ended up being ahead in the head count by almost 6%, but we're down about 2%, 3% in student credit hours. That's pretty much where we thought we were going to end up. For the spring, as of the enrollments through this morning, we're running behind about a little over 4% in head count and just under 10% in student credit hours. And you know, that's the trend that all the other institutions are seeing. We don't know where we're going to end up. I think we're anticipating we could end up as much as 10% down for the spring. Many of our peer institutions are down as much as 20%.
That's credit hours.
Credit hours.
And so do we have anything coming that people haven't registered for? I mean, there's still late registration, right?
Oh, well, we're still in regular registration,
So people can still be
Yes.
registering?
Absolutely. So people will still be registering up till classes start on January 20th. We'll see a drop off in the first week of January because we don't have, we have the first drop for non-payment, and that's always a big dip, and then we get those people mostly back in. But I anticipate that we could be maybe flat on headcount, but we're going to see a decrease in student credit hours. It's happening everywhere else, and it's going to catch up with us too.
And is the fiscal impact on that mostly in the tuition, because we don't really get much from
Correct.
HED?
It's mostly in tuition. Right. And so we'll see a little offset because we do have an increase in tuition this spring. But it depends on how much it goes down. Some of our costs will go down too because we won't offer as many classes if we don't have as many students. So there'll be a little bit of a balancing act there. But we're keeping a close eye on that, and it's something that we're keeping an eye on as we move into the budget for next year too.
Any comments, questions? Okay.
And so we're going to bring, Becky, you want to come up? We're going to move up to this point, the discussion, the first reading of Policy 414, Fitness for Duty.
I'm going to go ahead and invite Kyle to join me again. Good evening. It's good to see you all again. So this is Section G. So we go to G2. I'm going to start by saying that while this is primarily a cleanup of a policy, there are a handful of significant additions. I'm going to start by saying we will delete the redundant sentence, which is the final sentence in the policy overview. Feeling a little bit like we have a ghost in the machine issue, but we're watching it. So that sentence actually appears as the policy statement. This is the sentence that says employees are expected to be fit for duty while in active work status and capable of performing their jobs alertly and safely. Then we added a definition of fitness for duty, which is also on page G2. Oh, I'm going through the red line version. I'm discussing it. In addition, on page G3, under B2, we added a statement, any workplace accommodation must be approved by the Office of Human Resources, and that's to ensure consistency of practice, and that we'll engage with POM and finance and the appropriate groups to make sure that in an eagerness to accommodate that we're being rational and fair, consistent across the institution.
And the employee must request the accommodation?
Actually, the idea is that we initiate an active discussion about what might work and how to go about handling that. So it's an interaction really between the manager, the Office of Human Resources, and the employee, him or herself.
But the employee really has to initiate the whole.
Usually that's exactly how it occurs, yeah.
What we want to do is make sure that it's through the Office of Human Resources so we don't have departments doing things on their own without there being the consistency and the approval.
And then that's documented. And
Right. And if there's a sort of a limit to how long the accommodation is required, if it has to be
ongoing or
yeah,
short
ongoing.
term.
Right. So we can plan accordingly. Okay. And then under Category C, medical verification, we changed the word physician to licensed medical provider when.
Could I
I'm
suggest
sorry, excuse
a
me.
change there
Yes.
to licensed healthcare provider? Because a nurse practitioner is not necessarily
Considered
medical.
medical.
She's a nurse and.
Yes, that's good. Thank you. We'll make that change. Oh, I was going to turn to Jenny. I want to make sure. But she's
Did she leave?
She's gone. Yeah, I know she'll be fine with it.
Well, it originally said physicians.
Yes,
and we
we're
do
making
wanna
progress.
change that.
Yeah. And that's the extent of the modifications. Well, obviously with the statement of accountability and responsibility that we are applying to all of the policies.
Any comments, questions? Okay,
Thank you.
and we'll be
Great, thank
voting
you.
on this next month.
Next month, yes.
And I want to take this opportunity, in case I forget it later, to thank you all for the very careful readings and particularly you, Vice Chair Romero, for your supplemental support. I appreciate it.
Is this the right format, Martha?
This is the right one. I have one suggestion when we do the final readings, but. that
Okay,
will go later.
okay, good, thank you. We'll be here for it.
It's nothing significant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Do we have any public comment?
Do not.
Okay. Then we are the faculty senate. There's faculty, no? Okay. Staff senate report. I guess all the faculty left.
I know,
Oh, here.
yeah, I tried to suggest that but Clark is somewhere around Tennessee by now, I think, so driving all the way across country. So, not a whole lot to talk about. We're having our final meeting of the semester, the Staff Senate, tomorrow, and it's more of a party. The one issue that everybody wanted to keep on the agenda for tomorrow is discussion of the Southeast Connector, which we've gotten some reports on, and it seems as though both faculty and staff are very concerned about the route going through the middle of campus. And so we do hope that before any right-of-ways are approved or anything happens, that there be a much broader input on that, because it seems as though everyone has a lot of concerns about that route and dividing up our campus and all sorts of things. So that is of major concern. We also spent some time discussing, and I know our Constitution, I believe, is on the agenda today. We had some discussion at our last meeting about participation, and we had a conversation about, well, why don't people come to Staff Senate meetings? And we came up with people who are very happy with the way things are don't come because they're happy. So people who are very cynical and don't believe that we can change things don't come because they don't think that it will be effective. People who are frightened of repercussions of popping their head up don't come. And people who are busy don't come. So we looked around the room and say, so this is the group that's not happy, cynical, frightened, or busy. Anyway, so I thought I'd just we're trying to figure that out, exactly what it is. We're going to do a informal poll beginning of next semester to talk about what would bring you. Is it crisis? Is it food? Is it what would bring everyone to the table? So childcare. I don't think childcare, because the Fit for Duty policy clearly says that we're not allowed to bring our children to campus. So, so those are the major things that were coming up. We are, if anybody is interested, of course, no more than 2 of you can come, because otherwise it would be a quorum. But if you guys want to come to our party tomorrow, it's at 10 o'clock in this very room, and we would certainly welcome and encourage any of you to come.
I think we can come to parties.
Oh, you can? Okay.
They can party, but they can't.
We'll just keep you separate in opposite ends of the room or something like that, so.
We just can't talk about it.
Okay, okay, all right. I just you got to be careful with the Attorney General and rolling quorums.
Yes, definitely.
And I think that is pretty much, if there's anything, and we had 2 sets of minutes in the agenda, if there's anything that came up on that you wanted to ask me about, that would be good. The only other thing I did note, I was watching, my mom wanted to watch these video productions with me, and she mentioned to me that this camera gives a very unflattering angle to the people who sit here, so. Anyway, I don't know if we can do anything about that. Maybe after the budget crisis, we could look into those kinds of things.
He thinks you're much better looking, right?
Well, it focuses right on my bald spot right here. So it's anyway, is there any questions at all? Otherwise,
Kathy.
Just a quick comment. The Faculty Senate recently had a briefing on the Southeast Connector issue as well, and then issued a statement that they approved and passed on to us, which is really helpful in understanding after the discussion where they came out on it together as a group.
we passed a resolution, but we wanted to have more broad discussion and really make sure everyone in our meeting was aware it was on the agenda, and try to get a lot of participation at the meeting tomorrow. So hopefully we'll have more conversation about that tomorrow. We do intend to get you the at least our initial input, but I think we really want, it's the kind of thing that I think just our opinion of what we see right now is less important than a conversation of what would be good and bad or the pros and cons. One of the things that did come up is if we allow something, it's a very big road, it's like 120 feet wide, four lanes, that we would like to at least see the county put in some sort of pedestrian egress that allows us access to both parts without having to go through traffic in the middle, and also a utility easement that would allow us to connect campus utilities without having to make a large conduit that would allow us to connect campus utilities to both sides. So those are a couple things, but we'll have much more thorough input coming up. And we appreciate Henry coming and having a committee and bringing that to people to discuss and be aware of what's going on with that.
Right, okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then we,
Student government.
student government report?
Yes, good evening, everybody, and Madam President and all the members of the board. In the last few weeks, we are working in the bylaws and values we create from the subcommittees we are creating. We put in the agenda and a structure that how to follow and roll in the process with the subcommittees and how to follow the complaint with what we're looking for to create more transparency in the budget. And we are now in this progress process. And next semester we're going to finish that process and of the bylaws and values. Also, we got some few meetings for understand the budget process and understand the way is the rollover of the money here in Santa Fe Community College for the different SCA administrations, and that we understand that we need to work in the way the next SCA's success administrations can get possession from SCA, can understand how to make the transition process between the school and the SCA, and that we try to look in is the way to create a process that the next president and the next board can understand the budget, can understand how we can transfer the responsibilities on that. Also, I have some concerns. They approached to me in the last week about some courses. We are there canceled premature in the college. And some students, they are not happy about that. They think that they're not given the opportunity to enroll in the courses because they are in final tests and final projects. But there's some concern about some courses canceled, especially in the criminal justice, in trade technologies, and other places. You know, some courses was canceled.
These are courses that have already been canceled?
And already been canceled. Yeah.
Are they canceled because they're full, or are they just simply taken
They
off?
say they don't have enough students, but I think it's too premature for that cancellation.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
premature.
So, Madam Chair, every semester we go through and look at classes both early and right before the semester starts and decide to cancel some. Due to where we are both budgetarily and offering classes, we decided to go ahead and cancel a number of sections that had very low enrollment so that students could then move into other classes that are still open. We're trying to change our way of scheduling classes so we schedule fewer multiple sections, and when they fill up, we add more sections. Right now, we're scheduling too many sections, and you'll have 6 people in 10 different classes, where we really ought to have 5 classes, and they would all have 12 or more in them at this point in time. So we've made that move. As classes fill up, we will look for the opportunity to add more classes, but we do have some budget constraints that are facing us. And especially with the decrease in enrollments that we're expected, we do have to cut back on our offerings. So we've already done that. So we've identified, they're mostly classes, and Margaret Peters could talk about this, but they're mostly classes where there were multiple sections. There are some that we were offering too many times out of sequence, that we got to get back into offering them in the sequence pattern. So we've been carrying classes with 4 to 6 students for too long, and we can't afford to do that.
So when a student really needs a class to graduate and it gets canceled, who do they talk to? What recourse do they have?
They don't advise nobody. Last week when they take this decision, And in some way, take for surprise some students that are watching some section for enrollment. That don't mean that isn't a big issue, and so ways a lot of students, but some of these students approach to SGA and bring these concerns because some way, one of them maybe graduate, other not graduate. But in some way, some students they're enrolled in some classes was canceled. But maybe what Randy says, if they have other offers, it's okay, but.
Madam Chair, Mr. President, board members, all. One of the things we try to do, what we do when we cancel these classes, we print out a roster, we contact the students, we make every effort to contact the students and try and advise them into other classes, talk about their options before we actually cancel the class. But if occasionally there are students who are needing that particular course to graduate, if it's a single section course or a course for which there's not another section that fits their schedule, then we can have a conversation about an independent study. One of the requirements for an independent study is that that student needs it to graduate right now. And so we don't want to have a proliferation of independent studies and, as a result of having canceled classes, but certainly there are options. And so if there are students who've expressed concerns or problems and that they need a course to graduate, they should speak with the chair of the department, and there are, ways to work on that. Yeah.
Martha?
Do you ever grant waivers of that class or substitute a class?
Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, thank you. Willie, other?
Yeah, and the other thing is we make the first meeting at the end of the semester with the professors, faculty of the trade technology, and we are trying to working together some activities for the next semester for sustainability, and also we try to bring some speakers here to Santa Fe Community College for working and help the Growing Foundation for the Scholarship Foundation, and also working for try to also pursue and promote the program of trade technologies in the college. Okay, that's it for me.
All right, thank you. Okay, consent agenda. So we have all of these. Oh yeah, C. I'm sorry, we moved
Tab EC.
EC up to right after this item. So Martha, do you want to
Sure.
talk about that?
Yeah. And the reason to move it is that we thought, since it's the holiday season approaching, that some of you who might be here might want to leave early. And and the other thing is that we did consider thinking about doing this in January when there would be more people here, but as we thought about time marching on, we wanted to give as much time as possible for this motion. So I have a motion, Madam Chair, that I'd like to present, and then I'd like to talk to that motion to open up discussion with the rest of the campus. Here is the motion. I move the board set the regular February meeting as a deadline to receive constituent recommended changes or additions to the shared governance policy draft that was removed from the September board agenda, so that constituent feedback, including the addition of quality councils, could be considered by the board. Otherwise, the board move forward to consider any changes it wishes to make to the September draft and approve a shared governance policy for SFCC. That is the motion.
Okay, do we have a second for discussion purposes?
I second the motion.
All right. Discussion.
So, here's my comment about that. I've been worried about this for a bit, and I was concerned in the last staff reports about a recurring message that shared governance was not working. So the Board of Trustees has responsibility for college policy. That's sort of a given. It welcomes for consideration the feedback and the contributions made by campus constituent groups in order to arrive at policies that best serve our students, our community, and our employees. The shared governance policy draft was removed from the September agenda in order to get feedback and recommendations from the campus community and its leadership. It has now been 4 months, and we keep hearing that shared governance is not working. And it's no wonder we don't have a policy from which to work. The policy is a critically important document, and we suffer from not having a policy in place. But in the final analysis, it is the board that must bear responsibility for policy development and approval. And if the constituent groups cannot reach compromise or consensus on what the board should consider, keep in mind that recommendations they bring to the board for board consideration, and the board can consider or adapt those changes as it sees fit. So bringing forward a recommendation is not an automatic approval by the board. But if the campus community cannot reach agreement, it is still the board's responsibility to ensure that SFCC has a board-approved shared governance policy which constituent groups can then work to implement. So that's my comment about why I'm proposing this motion at this time. This will give the constituent groups 2 more months till the February regular meeting of the board to bring forward to us their recommendations for our consideration.
Thank you. Any comments?
Madam Chair, I wholeheartedly endorse the motion. I think it's important that this board gives direction as well, but it's got to be done in a collaborative model. And I think that unless we have input from the constituents in the college, it's going to be flawed, I think. And we're going to continue with this persistent indecision that needs to be made. So I think it's incumbent upon this board to support this motion, and come February we can make a very clear decision as to what the policy should be.
Randy?
Madam Chair, members of the board, I've been working with the Faculty Senate and Staff Senate and the group that's been working on this, and there are some issues that we're having trouble working out. But I think we all agree that we need to get something in place that matches the organization that we can move forward with. This is always going to be a living document, and it can be updated and changed, but we need to get something in place this year that matches at least the organization, because the one we currently have doesn't match the organization. So I think from my conversations with the group, with Staff Senate and Faculty Senate, I think this is going to help maybe give that little bit of oomph to say, let's move forward and make some decisions so that we can come with recommendations in February. So I support this concept.
Anyone else? Well, I really hope that the faculty and staff senates will come together and bring us some recommendations, because we do want to hear from you and we do value your input. And I know you've been working and talking with the president, and so now you have a time frame that has, pardon me? Yes, please, go ahead.
Well, I think we are moving forward on a policy, and I think we have no problem with that timeline, and I think we're excited to accelerate the timeline. I do want to make sure that the board is clear, though, that we do have a shared governance policy that we are working through right now, and that so far we've had a great deal of consensus that the policies coming to you every month have gone through the existing process, and I don't think that there's a lot of dissension, disagreement, that in general everybody's working very well together. So if the impression is somehow getting out there that we're having too much internal turmoil and conflict to be able to bring things forward, that has not been the case. So the issues that we're working through is our ideal, the best way to create a shared governance policy, which we're getting down to detail level. But I just want to make sure the board and everyone understands that right now shared governance is working fairly well. We've been moving things forward, bringing it through the governance council, and they're reaching you in a very timely manner at this point.
Great. Okay, thanks. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now on to the consent agenda.
With the minutes.
Yep, all the minutes, the work session.
Move approval of the minutes.
In that section with the minutes, that also includes the
Final
easement
reading.
with the city of Santa Fe regarding the higher education center, which we discussed at the,
And the city
session.
grant for permanent easement.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. And then the second portion are the policies for final reading.
So, Madam Chair, we have a number of policies that we discussed at the last meeting, and I think Member Romero may have a question on one of these. We did go back and put them in the correct format, I believe.
The biggest comment that I have is, and this is not, again, it's not content, but for ease of reference in the future, there is one policy, I think it's I'm trying to see, it may be the substance abuse policy, that has bullets instead of numbers. And when you go back in 2 years to call that up, then you have to count the bullets in order to find the pertinent comment. So that's a editorial correction, basically. The other comment that I have on, and it's one of the other policies, I think it's the employee benefit policy, where you have a whole paragraph with about 5 different or 6 different elements in it. And you have it listed as 1 and 2 and 3. But there, I think in the format we asked for A1 and then small a, so that once again, when you're looking at that policy in 2 years, you can quickly reference and find what it is. Having done policy for many years, I know that that's where we get stuck. And then everybody's sitting around going, where is that? What paragraph is that? You know, what statement was that? How do you find it? And this just makes things easier. So that's my only comment
Should we
about that.
bring that policy back?
No,
Well, why don't we just make those policies and ask us to make those editorial
just
fixes?
make
Yeah,
those editorial comments and I would move approval.
Okay. Then I just have a question on the smoking, which I should have asked the last time. Did we consider making the campus totally smoke-free? Maybe I did ask it last time. I forgot.
Well, we are interested in doing that. We've kind of been waiting because we keep hearing that the governor is going to issue an executive order to make all campuses smoke-free.
Huh.
There are some concerns that there could be some legal issues if it doesn't come from that standpoint, and so we were just trying to avoid
Okay.
legal issues. I think the bulk of the people on campus would be in favor of that.
Okay,
Madam Chair,
yes.
would that include e-cigarettes?
Yes.
Yeah, we did include them.
So the updated policy includes vaping and all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
Cigars, yes.
Yeah.
Cigars, pipes, smokeless tobacco.
All those.
Including electronics. Okay, any other comments, questions? We have a motion to approve all of these policies with the changes in format. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Rebecca.
Thank you for all your advice.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got action item, the approval of the financial reports. Do you want to just give us a quick summary? Because we did discuss many of the questions in this work session.
Madam Chair, before Nick starts, I do want to make sure that, Donna, that we repost these so we have those 2 corrected pages correct
Yeah.
online.
Okay.
Good evening, Madam Chair, board members, President Grissom. As you mentioned, we did review these earlier today, as well as yesterday we met with folks from the Faculty Senate, Staff Senate, and SGA and in open forum. And to just kind of recap what we had discussed, at this point in the year, as of November 30th, we're looking at 42% of the year-to-date revenues and expenditures has been completed. So What that really means is what we see in, well, I guess we can start with the cash in the bank. Cash in bank at this time of the year is about $4,051,130. The summary of revenues and expenditures, and that's the instruction in general fund. At this point in the year, we have a budgeted amount of $33,322,312 and actual revenues of $12 million. That is really 36% of the annual revenues received compared to this the same time last year, which was 31%. So revenues at this time of the year is looking pretty good, looking on track.
And that's because of some expedited payments from
That is,
higher education department.
we've had some accelerated payments of state appropriations. In terms of expenditures at this time of the year, we're at about 45% of the total expenditures. When you compare that to last year, which was about 46%, so we're about 1% under that. We have a couple of charts here that discuss actual ING revenues as a percentage of budgeted revenues. And in terms of revenues, those trend lines look like they're pretty well in sync. We have a little bit more revenues received than the 2 prior years. In terms of actual expenditures, the second chart you'll see here shows that we're about 45% with when you compare that to 46% of the prior 2 years. In terms of public service, we're looking at the public service funds, which are essentially subsidized with transfers, and we're closely monitoring those funds to make sure we stay within budgetary track. Auxiliary enterprises, we have actual revenues received of $1.2 million and expenditures about 1.1. So we have revenues over expenditures about $133,000. Within our plant fund, we have budgeted expenditures of $11 million, and we have actual total expenditures of $6.1 million.
And the balance of that is mostly bond money to finish out the HEC?
Correct. That is right.
And,
That's pretty much all I have at this point, unless you have any questions. that you'd
all
like.
right, questions?
I just have a comment, and I just want to commend the campus and the president and the people who have worked on the financial plan and to really get us in a place, you know, as I walked around the community, there were lots of folks saying, I hear you're not going to be able to make December payroll. And no matter how much assurance we gave, it seemed to be an ongoing question. And so that we've come this far, that we're in this financial kind of shape at this point, I think is really due to the work of the president and leadership team and the entire campus. And so thank you.
Well, thank you for that.
And we did form our board finance committee, which has both faculty and staff on it, and I believe that we've had training sessions on the various components of our budget process and income and revenue, those are the same, expenses. And the faculty and staff have been attending those trainings and attending our monthly reviews, and it really has helped, I think, have more of the campus community understand what what we're doing with the money, how we're doing it, and how we're spending our dollars. So I really want to thank the faculty and staff that have come to those meetings and are coming to all of we've had like 5 different trainings, different areas, and I think it's really working, and Kathy and I have learned a lot. So thank you.
Approval of the financial.
I'm sorry. Could we have a motion to approve the
I move to
financial
approve the financial statements as of November 30th, 2014.
Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of staff senate.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
So, Madam Chair, what you have in your agenda tonight is a red line version of the staff senate recommendations. And I see in there both, there's items that were proposed that were taken out, and so you still see those, and the ones that are in red are the proposed changes, is my understanding.
And I believe what you see in front of you is the what we proposed to you previously with your suggestions for change, and the staff did not vary from those suggestions. So.
Okay, so we can have a vote to approve this.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Why, thank
Did
you.
you
We're-
want to say something, Mr. President? Oh,
Just
okay.
thumbs up.
Oh.
Thank you. We're
Thank
very
you for all your
Thank
work
you.
on
we're
it.
very excited. We hope we set a good example for the faculty senate who will be coming with one too for you.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Zuby. Okay, what's next? We
do
did
this one?
that. The approval to seek funding for various things.
Madam Chair, the first item is approval to seek legislative funding of $125,000 to support the hotel and restaurant management program. We discussed this at the work session. This would be funding that would be shared both by Santa Fe Community College and New Mexico State University, who we hope will bring their bachelor's restaurant and tourism management degree to the higher education center effective next fall. So it would be funding to go to both institutions that could be used to support faculty, as well as some funds for supplies and materials.
And we have a legislative sponsor?
We do have a legislative sponsor. I believe it is Representative Carl Trujillo for this one.
So
We're
moved.
looking for others.
Okay.
Second.
Is there any other discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just want to say that I think that this is a great example of our college working on behalf of our community. I know this is a conversation that the mayor started with our tourism businesses in Santa Fe about how we could have more training opportunities in order to strengthen the services that we offer to visitors from throughout the world, and we know is important to the economy of Santa Fe. So we are following up with that and finding additional partners so that we can have many different layers and levels of training that can happen, allowing people in Santa Fe who work in the restaurant and hotel industry to advance their careers and their earning potential. So I think it's a great place for the college to take a stand, to look at building more programs that help residents of Santa Fe.
And to be looking for funding also beyond the legislature.
Correct. And we are looking for different funding sources, but this really is a request that did come out of the business community, so we're pleased to respond to it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Madam Chair, the next agenda item is to seek legislative funding. One would be a capital outlay request, and the other is an appropriation request. We're seeking $200,000, basically to update our lecture hall with improved seats and better equipment, so it could be a screening room. It could be used to support programs as well as a classroom. We estimate that at $200,000. And then we're seeking $300,000 to create a pilot program, which is called a New Mexico Filmmakers Academy. And it's really a way to try to get non-traditional students into filmmaking. It's also a way to encourage entrepreneurship and the creation of businesses for the film industry, not just to create jobs to work on the big films that come to town. So we're seeking $200,000 in capital outlay funding and $300,000 in operational funding. and Representative Jim Trujillo is sponsoring this legislation.
All right. Is there a motion to support this?
I move approval.
Second?
Any discussion? I note that our information says that over 400 Santa Fe Community College graduates are currently working in film and television. That's great. Okay, all those in favor?
Madam Chair? Yep. Before we take a vote, I just want to be on record as thanking Representative Trujillo for his support and interest in expanding this program at the college.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And the last one on this section is approval of the president's goals. And we decided that we wanted to have these be public so everyone knows what the president's goals are. So we have discussed them and worked with our president and come up with an excellent set of goals, we think, and he mostly came up with them, but it's all areas that the board wants to see, and they're tied to our strategic plan goals, which is very important. So do you just want to briefly go through the highlights?
Can we just read them into the record?
Or we can just
Have them put in the record?
we can just put them in the record, but they we have goals on student success, the higher ed center, shared governance, communication, senior management team, and the financial stability of the college.
And we added a goal related to new program development.
Right, new program development. So we'll put these in the record, we'll post them on the website so everyone can see, and you will know what the board will be evaluating the president on in the future. So can we have a motion?
Well, before a motion, I think
Okay.
it's important to note that these goals are not new, that we actually put these goals together at our retreat late in the early fall. And so this is an effort to make them public, and we've cleaned them up a little bit since the retreat, no doubt. But they aren't brand new goals. They are goals that have been ongoing since the early fall. So I would move approval.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And so, Mr. President, you'll provide these to the
Yes, I'll add
record?
that one goal.
Add that
and then
one,
I'll-
and
yes.
then. Okay. We're almost done.
Ms. Walters isn't here?
Yes, we have the reports,
Information items.
information items, anybody? None to report? What?
Madam Chair, if you want me to just talk about the financial oversight real quickly.
Okay,
So at the last meeting, the board approved a financial oversight plan, and so we've continued to implement this under the leadership and guidance of Mary D. Walters, who is under employment through this week, although she's going to be available some after the first of the year. But basically, as you mentioned earlier, we've created 5 teams to look at budgeting and financials. Team one is looking at ING revenues. Team 2 is looking at ING expenditures. Team 3 is looking at basically all the other exhibits, which includes plant, IT, financial aid. 1 is looking at capital projects, renewal and debt service, and 1 is an overall team that's looking at the budget overview and cash balances. And in each of these areas, there are targets, there are checkoff lists. So there's a variety of things that we've been training everybody that's on these teams, the questions that they should be looking for to be answered. And so I think we've got a path here for all people who are on that currently, but new people who would be joining those teams that support really basically the board finance team. So I think we've got a model in place that Nick and his team and the board will oversee carrying it forward. Nick and the financials, whether it's the budget or the financials each month, are report, and they have to defend what they've presented to these groups.
yes. And I know Merity's not here, but I would really like to thank her for all the work she has done to help us identify issues and help us correct them, and to really, she's created the training the training packets for staff, faculty, and board to really deeply understand what's going on, and we'll be passing a policy in the next couple of months so that we can codify this process and make sure that it continues beyond the tenure of any board members here.
I have a question.
Yes.
I noticed that in each of the teams there is a governing board member expected to be on the team. Is that split between the two of you?
Mm-hmm.
One suggestion might be that, one of the things that I've been thinking about is next year, if the two of you continue as that committee, but it doesn't give the others of us the opportunity to learn from all the training
Right.
that you've had and all of that. And it might be an opportunity to put a different board member on each of these teams, because then at least we'd learn that section.
Component.
And know that section in depth.
Yeah.
It's just that when the actual finance committee meets, we can only have the two board members unless
Well,
we notice
But
it.
if all the teams are meeting separately,
Yeah.
which it looks like all the teams would meet separately.
They all meet separately, and
We
then
have two on each team.
the whole group comes together for the
And
review.
we could have just one board member in each team. That would spread it out.
If board
for the rest
members
of
are interested, yeah.
Anyway, it's an idea.
We could have as many as two on each team.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
there's two people that want to be on one of the teams, we just can't have three.
Right.
It's that, the problem with that is it leaves more opportunity for there to be a team where there's no board member.
Right.
As it is, if there are 5 teams, each of us could be on a.
Yeah, this was kind of organic. We knew we wanted to create the committee, and we knew we wanted staff and faculty on it, but then it was actually Merity who came up with the idea of separating these components and making sure then we had expertise in each of those areas. So we can make that flexible, and if other board members want to participate in one of those groups, that would be great. Okay,
Madam Chair, just a
Yes.
quick comment on that. First of all, I want to thank Merity, too, for her commitment to work with us to put a process in place, a permanent process in place on our budget and improve what we're doing at the college. I also want to say I think there's incredible value in this, that we do have faculty and staff and people campus-wide that are now going to be very embedded in the budgeting process. So knowing the right questions to ask and formulating it from across the campus rather than only everybody knowing about their slice of the pie, I think that makes us a better institution moving forward. And, we got ourselves into we haven't had a great year last year in terms of where we were in the budget process. And this is the answer to make it better moving forward. So I'm extremely pleased with the outcome, at least of a structure that we can move forward, and anxious to put some new policies in place that really reflect this on an ongoing basis.
all right, our next meeting, January 20th.
You missed.
What did I miss? I don't see any.
Oh, do we have an OP, our strategic planning? Is there anything,
Oh, I missed
anything
that
you
whole
really
thing.
want to present?
I don't have that.
That's on there.
You're on the
Is
wrong
it on
one.
the,
You may be looking at the work session.
I'm looking at the, no,
Are you not?
I'm sorry. F?
20, January,
F,
Tuesday,
yeah.
January 20th,
No, don't worry about that.
first day of the legislation.
For the OP update, we'll just keep it short. My team and I, we actually, without me, I asked the team to get together and list everything they've accomplished for the last 6 months. And to my joy and surprise, we found out that we actually did everything we set out to do in our strategic plan for the OP. So that was good news, because we looked at everything, we're like, hey, this is exactly what we said we were going to do 6 months ago. So that was good. 2 things I do want to mention on top of what we accomplished in the Office of Planning and Institutional Effectiveness is that we made a proposal to our Higher Learning Commission, our accrediting body. They're responsible for accrediting 19 different states, and we are accredited under them. And we both of our proposal to do a presentation on strategic planning as well as writing a better systems portfolio was accepted for the 2015 National Conference. So it's another great way to really showcase what a great work SFCC is doing nationally as best practice to the rest of the country. So I just wanted to I just want to share that with the board members, and yes, thank you.
That's terrific.
And then we'll just jump right into the strategic plan for the college.
Okay, also very briefly, Madam Chair, members of the board, President Grissom, I did prepare an update for each of you, a written update that includes, well, we treated this month's update as kind of the mid-year report because we're midway through the planning cycle. So next summer there'll be another complete annual report that's prepared for you. At this point, this is kind of where we are with the strategies and specifically the milestones laid out for each of the strategies in the strategic plan. And so this gives you a rundown of that, as well as some of the recommended areas where we need to put a little bit of additional attention. These were also addressed in the annual report. There hasn't been a lot of progress over the fall. We're hoping that there will be additional progress in the spring, particularly on data collection and finance, recruitment, performance evaluation, and employee morale. So, and we stand for questions.
Questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it.
Okay, now is that it?
That's it,
I'm
except
having trouble with
for
my
closed
computer.
session. Board reports and closed session.
All right, so we need to, are there?
So, Madam Chair, I move. Are you ready?
Yes,
Okay.
are we ready, Donna?
I move that the board go to closed session for purposes of discussion of pending or threatened litigation pursuant to 10-15-1H7 of the NMSA 1978, employment claims involving administrative complaints or claims and issues in case number D101CV 2013-03032 and case number D101CV 2014-02295 for the purpose of discussion of limited personnel matters pursuant to 10-15-1-H2 NMSA 1978, internal employee grievance and issues with reassignments, restructuring, and for the purpose of discussion of personally identifiable information about any individual student unless the student has his parents or guardian otherwise or guardian requests otherwise pursuant to 10-15-1H4, discussion of misconduct by several individual students.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All right, okay, we're going into,
Before,
Closed
just want to say one thing. Can you pass on that the board would like to wish all the faculty and staff a Merry Christmas? I don't say Happy Holidays, but these guys might. But I say Merry Christmas, and so let them know. Thanks.
thank you.